Hi there again. Okay, so now we're going to do our applique, and all I've got here is just a piece of calico. You could use anything. This is an old piece that I use for something else, and I've just cut it, and the size needs to be bigger than the opening. So there you go, you can see my heart. So the size needs to be bigger than the opening. Now what I'm going to do for my applique is I'm going to just, all of these pieces of fabric here have just been cut quite narrow, and I'm just going to piece those all together to make one fabric. So you can have fun with bright colours, and that's what I'm going to do on here. So I'm going to start just with my first piece, and all you do is you lay your piece of fabric, I'm going to go this way, your piece of fabric down here, get your second piece of fabric, I might use this hot pink, and you're going to lay right side to right side. The only thing you do have to have is nice straight edges, so I've used the cutter to do that. Do I pin my work for something this size? No, I don't. You're more than welcome to, but I do suggest if you do pin, you put your pins in with the heads of your pins facing out if you're right-handed on the right-hand side, and left-handed you can have them facing out on the left-hand side. The reason being, when you pin this way instead of pinning this way, it will stop your fabric from stretching. Okay, so if you would like to pin it, feel free. What I do instead of pinning is I usually have my iron right beside me on the right hand side. So what I do is I come to my iron and I lay my two pieces of fabric together like that, and I heat set them, and you'll be amazed at the difference that does to your stitching. So I now would normally have this right by my machine, but I would put this up to my machine, and really I don't need to pin it, but I am a bit naughty about pinning, so I don't pin a lot, as you'll get to know me. Those ladies that know me already know this. So 1/4 inch foot, that's 1/4 inch from here to here, and I'm just running it along the edge of my fabric. Okay, so what I'm going to do is stitch all these pieces together, and I'll put my needle, oh, my needle stop is down, and I'm just running my fabric along, my fabrics together along the edge. Oh, and I have a broken thread. It's actually a good thing when that happens, because I can show you. I'm not sure why that broke, but if that did happen, you would cut the thread, even though there's nothing there, just to bring everything to the right position. Take your fabric out and find your thread. Now, this machine, we do not pull our thread backwards. So what I would do if I was at home, I wouldn't just rethread that. I would cut my thread. I would pull that thread just in case there was a problem, and I would rethread from the top. Okay, so we always pull our thread out this way. So I'm going to, oh, here we go, you can see what happened. Look, somehow my thread had caught around here. Okay, so it's usually a user error. I'm not sure why, but it did. So I'm going to take this off and put this back on, and that's why the thread broke. So always backtrack and find out why. Don't just rethread it, or it would have happened again. So now, again, I'm going to go here, down, around there, behind here, and I can show you this magnificent needle threader again. Hook it under here, push it down, click it in, and let it go. Okay, and you pull the lovely big loop at the back. If my machine had jammed anymore, I would have taken my bobbin out. Okay, and I'll just quickly show you that, just so you're aware. And some of you ladies and gentlemen may never have seen this large bobbin case. So this opens up, and we just push the button, and this is the size of our bobbin. It's rather large. It holds, with metricine, I get about 70 meters of thread on here, so it's pretty amazing, because I can wind 2 of these bobbins, and it's nearly 150 meters of metricine used, so it's brilliant, so I don't run out. It has a shiny side on one side. I'm just going to put that in my bobbin case. That comes around here, under here, and clicks. And when I put it in, this needs to be vertical, and I'm going to push the left hand side to lock it, the right hand side opens it. So I'm just going to put it in here, and I always use my thumb, and it's clicked in. Brilliant. And it's got a cutter, even better. And then I'm going to close this up. And you'll notice that the sew table is supersized. Brilliant sew table for this nice big machine. Okay. And there you go. Now Bernina do have a special at the moment until the 14th of April. So if you buy any of these large machines that can have an embroidery attachment, you get the embroidery attachment free. Any single one of the Bernina sewing machines that can have an embroidery attachment, they're free till the 14th of April. So that is a brilliant, brilliant saving. So you've been thinking about a big machine, you're saving $1,500 to $3,000. It's absolutely brilliant. So we've got a lot of machines that have the capability of having an embroidery module, and you get it free at the moment. So it's a very good saving. And you can see that all on our website, berninataranga.co.nz. If you'd like to have a look, I've got all the prices and machines on there. Okie dokie, so I'm just going to start back here, and I'm just going to re-stitch that. And I'm just going to go down to the end here. And use my scissors. Okay, and I'll just cut that thread. Now, you come to the iron. So every single time you have stitched this, you have got two pieces of fabric right side to right side. You lay it down on your iron, and you always iron away from you. So you're pressing that seam you've stitched, and you're pressing it away from you. Okay? So just press it away from you, like so. Brilliant. And now I'm going to put my next colour on. So I think I will use this beautiful bright hot pink one. So again, remember what I showed you before? You just lay right side to right side and use your iron and heat set it. And that's how I sew all my patchwork pieces together. It's too easy. And I often sew with a base fabric. Some people don't sew with a base fabric, but I always sew with a base fabric because I absolutely love it. And you can start at the back behind the calico if you like. That's absolutely fine. And you can see every time I stop my needles down, it's too easy. And cut. The cutting on these machines is brilliant because you only have that little bit of thread there. You're not wasting a whole lot of thread cutting it off all the time. So I'm going to repeat this process till I finish this whole piece of fabric, and that's going to make up my heart. So just give that a press. So by the time I've finished, you're really going to know how to do this. Right side to right side to right side. Sometimes it's a little bit hard to tell on these plain fabrics, but I've decided to use plain and coloured this time. It's rather pretty, and they're nice bright vibrant colours that look great on the black. Needle down. You can see I use my knee control a lot, and the reason being these machines don't have anywhere to lift a foot up. So you have a button here, and that lifts your foot up, and that lifts your foot down, but I use my knee control because it's much easier. And I don't know if you've noticed the chair I'm sitting on, but these chairs that Horn bring out, Horn cabinets, have been brought out for people to use with their sewing cabinets. And the beauty of this one is it's got a lift device, so I can lift it up and I can lift it down. So obviously I need to sit up. And so I've lifted it up, and you'll see, especially for us women, we get very sore backs when we sew. And this is designed very well to go into my back. And I honestly can say I do not get a sore back using these chairs. Brilliant. So, so good. And I think I will say my husband has stolen it sometimes for his office, because it is a very good chair. So they are brilliant. So buy your ones for your business, for your office, and then just take it home, because it's that good. But you could sit on it all day long doing your office work and you wouldn't get a sore back. We also have them without the lift device as well, but I do like the lift device because you can lift it up and down. And here's another good part. Check out this chair. So I'm going to get up and show you. So not only does it have a lift device, but you open it up And you can hide all your chocolate and maybe your feet and maybe your sewing book so you don't lose it. It's brilliant. So it's got storage as well. I think everybody needs one. So next Christmas or birthday, I think you need to put in an order. I presume they're sold all around the world because they're made by Horn that make our beautiful sewing cabinets. Okay, so we're just going to layer this up again. And right side to right side. You'll notice I have a very, very pink iron. Went shopping one day and we decided we needed a pink iron, and it's just a nice little one that we got from Briscoe's. It's a Phillips and it's a great little one. It's not too heavy, not too light, but it's a good handy one for craft work. People are always asking me what irons to buy, and that's a good basic one. Okay, so just stitching this one down now. And if you're wondering why this machine is so quiet, it's because these new machines have a new oiling mechanism in them where you actually fill them up with oil, and it keeps oiling your machine all the time. Keeps it excellent. So you're not having to stop and oil. So, you know, you sort of wonder where Berninas are going and how they can make things better. They just can, because they're clever. So again, we're pressing. They're just absolutely brilliant. And I'm going to throw in a different colour. No, I'm not, because this is just too cute like this. I'm loving these bright colours, so I'll stick to the bright colours just right now. And I have made one mistake, which I'll tell you about in a minute. Because I don't want you to make it. So when I started doing this, I probably should have started a little bit further down, and I'll show you why in a minute. But we'll see. We'll just see if I'm clever or not. Right, I'm going to add this piece here. We're just about to the end. Oh, I forgot to iron it. You can tell when you forget to iron it because it moves. It doesn't sit as flat. Interesting. Okay. Now, so I'm going to have a look to see how much more I need to fill in my heart, and maybe 2 more strips. So I should have moved this first piece down a little bit further and centralised it in here. It would have been a little bit better, because I have to come nearly to the end of that calico, which wasn't intelligent. Now I do have to fill in this piece here, so I'm going to have a different one at the top, which will look too cute. Okie doke. Oh, see, I just already told you I'd done it wrong, and now I'm doing it again. Give that a press, and it heat sets it. Makes it so much better. It just doesn't move. Look at that. It's brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. And thread under there. Knee control down. Well, kiddo, how are we going? I reckon we must be there. So, now what we're going to do is we're going to place our heart, I'll move my iron, place our heart on top of our fabric, and we can decide if we want to, or you know what, I think I'm going to put one little more strip at the top, because I can just see the opening there and just see the opening there. So I'm going to cut this piece off, and I'm going to sew one more strip just at the top there. Oh, maybe at the bottom actually. I'm going to sew it at the bottom. I just need a little bit at the bottom of the heart or a little bit at the top, so I'm going to put it at the bottom, I've decided. Because I quite like that little fun one at the top. So heat set and stitch just to cover that base. And as you can see, that's why I should have started further up. that a press, and that will cover my point. Okay, so here's my piece of fabric which is going underneath my work. Here's my beautiful heart, and I'm laying this on top, and I'm going to bring that so I'm happy with my result. I've got a little bit of that, I've got some of that, and it's looking really good. And then I'm going to give this a press just to hold it in place. Remembering you've still got your freezer paper on there. I'm actually going to use a pin. Don't be shocked, but I do sometimes use a pin. I'm going to be pinning that on. You would not normally put white thread on here, you'd use black, but I just used white to show you how you've got to pull your thread back, and it's going to be stitched over anyway, but normally you ladies, if you're doing black, and gentlemen, put black on there. If you're doing white, put white on. White fabric, white thread, black fabric, black thread for doing your heart shape. Okay, now let me show you what it looks like at the back. There's the front and there's the back. This is all going to be cut back shortly. You've still got your freezer paper. Now what that freezer paper is doing is it's adding stability. So now I'm going to choose a coloured thread, and I'm going to stitch a coloured thread on there. So this is just one I happen to have here, which is kind of handy, and that will look okay. So I'm going to take this thread off my machine, and I'm going to put this large reel of thread on. Now when I'm using these threads, remember what I said about your machine. On these new machines, you do not pull the thread backwards, so you cut the thread and you pull it from here. Okay? I'm going to take off my straight stitch foot. I'm going to take off my straight stitch plate, and they have a little circle to push to take your plates off. Take off my plate. I'm going to put my standard 9mm plate back on because I want to do a fancy stitch, and it just sits up like this and you push it down. Same on the other machines, and I'm going to tell my machine that I've put a 9mm plate back on. Okay, and I'm going to use foot number 1C, which is the standard foot, and I'm going to put my standard foot on. Okay, so I've changed everything for my different sewing. Now I'm going to take my thread off. Now these threads, you can either have them lying down like this and putting this onto here, but usually with these larger threads I stand my extra thread stand up, and you've all got extra thread stands on your machine, and if you're not sure where, please ask. Come in and ask or send me an email. But these, when these come, you've got an end to them, which I'm just going to look for here. Take that end off like that, and then this fits down into here. In fact, I always have it with the thread coming off the back. Okay, so that extra piece goes into there. That's what it's for. And if you don't know what this is for, I'm going to show you, because it's always a bit of a giggle because people don't realise it's even on there. When you wind your thread up to put it away, what you do is you get your thread and you lay it across the end here, and you pop this on, and it keeps your thread tidy. And that's what it's for. Okay, so take that off, lay that there. Now this is an old reel of thread, and I know this because it's one I haven't used for a while. So if you do end up using an old reel and you have a problem with your stitching, throw it away because it could be rotten. Threads don't last forever. If you have them exposed to the sunlight, they'll break down a lot quicker, so be a little bit careful. And I can tell this is an old reel, I just quite like the colour. So I'm going to thread this up now and we'll soon see. I've got ordinary metricine in the bobbin. I'm not doing anything with that on this machine. But on your machines at home, if you have silky thread on the top, which this is poly neon, and you've got metricine in the bobbin, you may need to thread the eye of your bobbin case. So depending on your machine, I'll just get another bobbin to show you. So if you have a standard bobbin case, like 99.9% of the machines, this is your standard bobbin case. Your bobbin goes in here and there, and that's for normal sewing. But if you need to tighten that bobbin thread, you're going to thread the eye of your bobbin case. like that. And what that's going to do for the stitch I'm going to do is it's going to tighten that bobbin tension, and you do that for when you're doing buttonholes as well. Okay, but we don't need to do it on this machine because it's got a different bobbin shuttle system. Okay, so I'm going to choose stitch number 405 because it's a stitch that I really like. And on this machine I can go and find it, or I can ask the machine to look for it for me. So I can go search just like a computer and go 405 and tick, and the machine has found the stitch I want to use. It's a little bit clever, isn't it? So now I'm going to thread up my needle, and I can also come out here and make that bigger as well. I just thought I'll show you that. So if I wanted to go and find those stitches, they're on here, and I can just scroll down and choose what stitch. But if I push that button, I can extend it, and I can just scroll up and down and choose my stitches. So the machines have come a long, long way. Touch, 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 Robin. There we go. Okay, so this is one of my favourite stitches that I'm going to use. Okay, so I'm going to thread my needle. And did you notice the foot's up? And as soon as I go under here, the foot goes down. Look, magic, eh? Love it. Play with it for hours. There you go. I suppose I should love these machines. I've been doing this for 36 years, so if I don't love it now, there's something wrong. Okay, now I'm going to put my ordinary foot on, and I'm going to start at the bottom of my heart. Normally I wouldn't, but for this thing I am actually going to start at the bottom, making sure I've got my needle stopped down, checking the width is very, very wide, 9 by 9.8. I'll leave it at that just to show you how wide you can sew. I would probably do it a little bit narrower normally, but that's fine for that width for this, what we're doing today. So now I'm going to start sewing, and I want it to lock off, so that's good. And what it's going to do is it's going to stitch part on here, and then it's going to stitch the rest on here. So it's going to be quite pretty. And the way I'm doing it is there's a little mark in the middle of your foot, and I'm guiding that around the edge of my heart. Go the speed you feel comfortable at. And if you feel you need to stop, remember you've got your needle stopped down on, so it won't matter when you stop. This is quite a big heart, so I can curve this without having to stop and start. You can see how easy that is for me because I've actually got the stability of the freezer paper behind it. Nothing's moving, and I haven't had to iron too much. I haven't had to stop too much, shall I say. I'll slow around my curve. Now I normally use something like this. I use something when I want to hold something down. I find a tool. This is a sewing gauge, and I find these absolutely brilliant. This one's a new one. I'll just take the price off so I don't get stuck. And I can hold my work down. So I always use something like this when I need to hold work down rather than a pin. And I'm going to stop and watch where that goes. And I went one stitch too much, so I'll do a couple more stitches. Oh no, I'm all good. And stop there. Okay, now I want to start again here, so that's actually very lucky that it's turned there. But what I can do is ask it to start at the beginning of the pattern so I know it'll be right. So I go to here, and I go to not to there. I was going to push that one, but that one's single pattern. I want this one, pattern begin. So I nearly pushed the wrong one. Okay, whoop, push clear because I just did a oopsie. So in here, if I went to here, this one here, it would go one pattern, but that will only stitch one, so I had to clear that. So I'll just show you. I had, whoop, that one, sorry, I have to clear it because otherwise it's only going to stitch one pattern. So now I know that it's going to go to pattern begin here and it's going to start at the top. So every machine's different. I had to stop and think about that for a minute because my one at home's a little bit different than this one here. So now it's going to go to the left hand side. Whoops, where's my little tool? So I'm just going to bring it around to make sure that it's going to stitch where I want it to stitch. Perfect. Do you know why I'm using this stitch? Because just about all of you have got it on your machine. It's brilliant. So when you feel confident, away you go. Buzz around it. It's too easy. I've got this on full speed, so this is as fast as it can go with this fancy stitch. Now when you get nearly to the end, you can push pattern end so that you don't overshoot it. So I can go here, I can go to here and push pattern end on this machine. Going to finish in a second, and then I can lift it up and turn it. Now I just actually want to do one more stitch because I want it to go this way, and lift it up because I want to fill up one. Actually no, I don't need to fill up one more row. It's looking really, really good. Now I should have pushed my lock off button and I didn't. So if you did that like I've done by mistake, what you can do is go back to straight sewing, and you can put your stitch length to 0, or you can put your needle feed dogs down and you can just lock off. Okay, so if you ever make a mistake, don't think you can't fix it, you can. And now I can cut. Okay, and there I have a really cool applique done, very easily, and I can cut that because it's locked off, and very, very smartly. Now all I do to finish this is I turn it over to the wrong side and I trim back my fabric, and it can just be trimmed back to your stitches. Don't stress too much. You can use duckbill scissors if it's a very fine piece of work, but just standard little snips are fine for this. And the best part about this is I can then pull away my freezer paper and I've got a brilliant, brilliant finish. And I can use the freezer paper over and over again and I've got my shape. So there's my back. And now all I do is lift my freezer paper up, very carefully start to tear it. You don't need many muscles, you just need to get it started. Very carefully tear it, and now you've still got a shape of your heart even though it's a embroidered design. But it still gives you your shape of your heart, so you can reuse your shape. So I never throw these pieces away because they're very, very useful because they can be reused so much. It's clever, isn't it? It's a brilliant, brilliant product. I love it. And you can also freeze your food for the freezer. So there's the back of your garment or your block, and there is the front of your garment, so you can see how clever that looks with a fancy stitch. And I'll just show you another couple I've done. So this one here, I did a different fancy stitch around it, and it's a wavy fancy stitch. Both of these stitches I have used are stitches that are on just about all of the Berninas, so you don't have to worry about not having any of these stitches because they're standard stitches. And then this one I have done just with white, with like a blind applique type stitch, just to show you. But I actually like the fancy stitches. I think it looks much nicer. And if you see here, I've got my lines going the opposite way. So you probably didn't notice that. This one's going sideways and this one's going vertical. So one horizontal and one vertical. So there you go. So that's just a little bit of a different take on an applique. And I hope you really enjoyed it, because I had fun doing it with you. And yeah, please email me and show me all that you do with the freezer paper and the applique method. And I will see you next month.